I honestly can't believe that Erik ten Hag said this after Manchester United's game against Brentford, but I'm not at all surprised. And what I want to do in this video is just kind of summarize where I am with the thinking around Ten Hag, because it feels like right now he's on a bit of a collision course with INEOS in terms of what they're trying to bring into this club and the way that Erik ten Hag is currently approaching it as manager. Because this is what Erik ten Hag said after the game. He was asked whether he was concerned about the shots that Manchester United are facing. All right? We've all seen the numbers. It's been the case. This isn't a knee-jerk reaction to an individual game against Brentford. This is something that's unsustainably happening all season long consistently. Manchester United have been conceding shots, conceding control of games, on the back foot, opened up like a can. But Erik ten Hag's fine with that, as long as Manchester United get the results. Now, the result didn't come against Brentford. A lot of times this season, the result has not come. But if I'm going to sort of summarize exactly what it's like watching Manchester United and why this whole approach feels completely unsustainable, it's this word here: extremes. This is how Manchester United have approached this season. The season where Erik ten Hag wanted Man United to become the best transition team in the world. All right? That's not happened. But there's been mitigating factors. Okay, so many injuries and the Sancho situation, the Anthony situation. Of course, yeah, right. So how do you find that middle ground? Well, we haven't. And these last two games, within the space of 2 weeks, you are not going to get more extreme. The absolute highest of the highs of the season with Ahmad, 120th minute breakaway transition goal against Liverpool to knock them out of the FA Cup. What a moment that was for the season. Of the season, anyway. The next game, the lowest of the low. Conceding more than 30 shots against the Brentford side, which were missing their whole back four, which have got 1 point out of their last 18. And not only that, but scoring in the 97th minute and somehow not winning the game of football. That's the extremes of watching Manchester United this season. And for me, it just puts Erik ten Hag's approach on a bit of a collision course with what INEOS not are trying to do at Manchester United, with what INEOS are doing and have already started doing at Manchester United. Right? Jim Ratcliffe has already spoken about this on more than one occasion, about creating that elite environment. That's what Dave Brailsford, INEOS and Ratcliffe are doing. That's why Omar Berrada has been brought in. That's why Dan Ashworth is going to come in, and a head of recruitment on top of that. All right? And if you want to just talk about that game in isolation, I mean, there are stats galore from how bad that game was. We don't really need to run into those. Because I'm not speaking, this isn't a knee-jerk reaction to that game against Brentford. It's just the latest example in a season where there has been so much unsustainability to our approach. And I think that's what INEOS are going to be focusing on. James Ducker from the Telegraph here saying, look, the word was this latest anemic no-show against Brentford had again gone down badly in Jim Ratcliffe's camp. And of course it will be. And this is what I mean about the unsustainability of it and why it's going on a bit of a collision course. Look, Gary Neville here saying, look, it's actually really quite difficult to play as badly as Man United did against Brentford. And it was just, I go back to that word again, extremes. And this is what I just think Erik ten Hag has not been able to avoid. It feels... Erik ten Hag saying this tells me that he's accepted the chaos as the approach right now. I don't think in the long term, if Erik ten Hag was to be here next season, I don't think that's an approach that would continue. But between now and the end of the season, with 9 games left, it feels like Erik ten Hag isn't going to try and bring control back into this team. Otherwise, you wouldn't see McTominay start. You would see Amrabat start. He's a far more... Don't tell me about him being too slow for this and too slow for that. McTominay is not a central midfielder. Whoever plays in a double pivot and does it really well. He's not. He's a box-crashing midfielder who arrives on the edge of the box and he'll get you goals. Kind of like Marouane Fellaini. You play Marouane Fellaini every week, and we did for quite a while. I started to resent Fellaini playing in that role because it wasn't how he was supposed to be playing. Same thing goes for McTominay. But I don't think Erik ten Hag... It's not a case of don't think Erik ten Hag is fine with how we're playing. He's made it clear. I don't care how many shots we concede, as long as we get results. He is in pure results mode. And it just feels dangerous. It's felt dangerous all season. And it goes in complete contrast, in my opinion, to what Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS are trying to bring into the club. Now, it's whether or not behind the scenes, look, Erik ten Hag could conceivably have gone, right, I know this is not the approach that in the long term, INEOS want at this football club. But there are however many games left. 9 now. Man United, it seems very unlikely we get the Champions League spot. And if we do, we sneak in the back door at the last minute before it slams shut. We need Spurs and or Villa to have massive wobbles. Now, Spurs, of course, as I said, play City, Arsenal, Liverpool in the space of 3 weeks. But we play Chelsea and Liverpool next. So we need to get to the point where they have those fixtures and probably be within 4 to 5 points of them. That's going to be difficult unto itself. But it's just this, it's this comment here, man. For me, it feels very simple, all right? If there's 9 games left and I look at how we're playing this season, the biggest problem, it's been the case all season, this is what I mean. Erik ten Hag is a smart man. Dude's a football obsessive. He can see what the problems are. It's not like he can't see it. He's just choosing to, not to accept them, but he's fine with it as long as the results are there. But if we just drop that front press and go into a bit of a mid-block, you can have that same transitional style. You can have all of that, but you'd just be a lot tighter. Sure, you might give up a little bit on the proactivity in the opposition's half, but if Erik ten Hag really is in results mode, and he's made it clear that he is, right there, words from his mouth, I don't care as long as we get the results, then Erik, make it easier for yourself, mate. 9 games left. Stop leaving this team so ridiculously open. Go compact. Sure, we might get less chances, but it's not exactly, we weren't exactly creating chances left, right, and centre against Brentford. And Jim Ratcliffe is sitting there, has bought Manchester, 25% of Manchester United for like $1.5 billion, wants to bring in that elite performance environment, and just accepting getting pummeled with shots the whole game is not something that INEOS, Jim Ratcliffe, Berrada, or Browse will be looking at and going, from a sustainable perspective, that's what I want to see going forward. And it just feels like a bit of a collision course, man. I think I've stated since day one how much I want it to work out with Erik ten Hag. We've got Chelsea away next. That's going to be as chaotic a game I think you're going to see all season. And I hope we come out on the right side of that chaos. Because I don't think we're going to really tighten up and approach the games differently. Otherwise, it probably would have happened by now. I don't know what goes on between now and the end of the season. But it just feels like if Erik ten Hag is going to be given the opportunity to see out that contract, then INEOS need to... Something's got to change, man. I don't know what it is. Do you think he just drops a front press? What can he do in the short term that is really going to have an actual genuine impact on how we play in games? That's what I want to know. Let me know in the comments.